Hi, Mr. Atala. This is Camille Hunter from Period 4. I was born in September, so today I will be describing process number 1, the resting membrane potential, and process number 5, propagation. To start off with model number 1, I will briefly go over what items are representing what. The tin candle covering is representing the cell body, the lip gloss and writing utensils represent the dendrites, the pretzels represent the axon, the gum strips represent the voltage-gated channels, the orange jelly beans are sodium ions, while the blue jelly beans are potassium ions. The button pins represent larger negatively charged proteins, and lastly, the makeup brushes represent the axon terminal and terminal buttons. So now on to the process explanation. So the first part of the action potential process starts with a resting state. So over this process, the membrane potential starts at a resting state, is changed due to a stimulus, and then is restored to a resting state because, as we know, nature loves balance. So in a resting state, the neuron lies at -70 millivolts, and the sodium ion channels are closed, so sodium cannot get in. So why is the neuron charged negatively? Basically, there are a bunch of positive sodium ions lying outside the neuron and a bunch of positive potassium ions lying inside the neuron. As we can see, the potassium ions are mingling with a bigger negatively charged protein. Since there are more sodium ions outside than there are potassium ions inside, the cell's interior has a negative charge. When a neuron has a negative membrane potential like this, we refer to it as being polarized. So unless there is a stimulus of some sort, such as a paper cut or someone stepping on your foot, the membrane will remain at this state. So only when there is a stimulus that reaches a threshold of -55 millivolts, then the sodium channels will open and start the process of depolarization and repolarization. So after depolarization, the membrane potential is not happy living at around +30 millivolts. So the potassium channels close and allow the potential to decrease. So sometimes if too much potassium is let out, there can be a after hyperpolarization phase, which can reach up to -90 millivolts. So when this happens, potassium channels close, sodium-potassium pump takes over, and the membrane potential is returned to a resting state of -70 millivolts. So the resting state is very important to the function of the neuron because it needs this time to recharge before the process starts all over again. So no matter how strong a stimulus is during the refractory period or recharging period, an action potential cannot begin. So for the second model, I'll quickly be going over propagation, and all the materials are the same except now we have band-aids for dendrites. So basically, in order to send a longer distance signal along the axon, you need a large enough stimulus that will trigger the different voltage-gated channels. So when a stimulus does come along, if the threshold of -55 millivolts is reached, then the action potential can kickstart the chain reaction of opening voltage-gated channels as the signal is sent along the axon. The action potential spreads or propagates like a current, which is represented by the current C holder. So each of your neurons has a lot of voltage-gated sodium channels, so when one or a few of them open, the sodium rushes in and the current is strong enough to cause the adjacent areas to open as it moves along the axon. So it moves along, the gum wrapper opens, comes along, travels, affects this one to open, the ions are moving in and out as this is happening, and so on and so forth. So as the current moves along, it is affecting adjacent areas, which causes people to think that the action potential can move backwards. But this is not the case because the axon and the channels need a refractory period in order to recover from the depolarization and repolarization periods. So the only channels that can be activated are the ones that are in front of the current, and that is why it moves forward. Thank you so much.